The collapse of order begins with a single passenger. A girl boards at the last second, her limbs contorting in ways the human frame shouldn't allow, before she hurls herself at the nearest witness. This high-speed KTX train, speeding toward Busan, is a sealed metal tube. There are no sprawling city streets to hide in. Every passenger is locked into a narrow corridor with no exit other than the door to the next car. The passenger list provides a concentrated cross-section of society. Seok, a fund manager who views people as data points. Dong, a working-class husband protecting his pregnant wife. And Kim, a corporate executive used to giving orders. When the virus takes hold, it moves with the speed of a physical wave. A single bite triggers a mutation in seconds, turning a quiet morning commute into a cascading failure of every car on the train. As the infected multiply, the invisible social contract that keeps strangers civil vanishes. In these cramped aisles, the biological threat is soon matched by a desperate, frantic scramble for the few remaining inches of safety. Seok's first instinct is to pull his daughter away from the crowd. He explicitly tells her to stop helping others, scolding her for giving up her seat when their own safety is at stake. He approaches survival as a zero-sum game. In his view, every ounce of effort spent assisting a stranger is a direct tax on his daughter's own chances of making it to the end of the line. It is a philosophy of total isolation. But as the doors between the cars begin to fail, it forces a grim question. Is absolute selfishness actually the most reliable way to survive a total societal collapse? Dong operates on a different logic. He uses his immense physical strength to act as a human shield, guarding not just his wife, but anyone standing behind him as the horde presses against the glass. The two men are soon separated from their families. To reach them, Seok, Dong, and a young athlete have to fight their way through several cars packed with hundreds of infected passengers. Moving through cars 9 to 13 requires more than just force. The group notices that while the infected track every sound with terrifying precision, they stand completely frozen in the dark. The moment the train enters a mountain tunnel, the monsters lose their sight entirely. They begin timing their movements to the shadows. By creeping past the infected only when the cabin is blacked out, they turn the train's high-speed geography into their only tactical advantage. To clear the final door, Seok uses a cell phone as a decoy. He sets the ringer and tosses it to the luggage racks at the back of the car, pulling the entire horde away from the exit long enough for the group to slip through. This struggle forces Seok to abandon his isolationist stance. He realizes he is only alive because he is part of a formation, where his brains, the athlete's speed, and Dong's power are working in unison. By the time they reach their families, the evidence is clear. In a crisis this volatile, the group that shares risk and coordinates their skills has a far higher success rate than the individual trying to hide alone. While Seok's group learns to cooperate, Kim, the executive, doubles down on opportunism. He uses the survivors' fear to convince them that anyone coming from the infected cars must already be carrying the virus. As Seok and Dong finally reach the safe car, Kim orders the passengers to tie the doors shut. He effectively turns the people who should be their allies into a second barricade, trapping the heroes in the vestibule with the monsters. The delay is fatal. Because the door is jammed from the inside, Dong is forced to stay behind, using his own strength to hold back the swarm so his wife can find a way into the cabin. The cruelty of the safe car backfires. An elderly woman, watching the survivors mourn the man who just died to save them, decides she no longer wants to be part of Kim's safe society. She walks to the door and slides it open. The resulting carnage is the direct result of Kim's strategy. By choosing to sacrifice his neighbors to ensure his own safety, he triggered the very collapse that wiped his entire group off the map. The microcosm of the train finally disintegrates. A massive wreck on the tracks causes a violent derailment, forcing the last few survivors to crawl out into a field of burning metal and thousands of infected. In the wreckage, the homeless man who had been terrified the entire trip finally finds his resolve. He throws himself into the path of the horde, giving Seok and the women the few seconds they need to reach a functional engine.
Kim Manager also makes it to the engine, but his luck has run out. Having spent the entire day pushing others into the jaws of the virus to save himself, he has finally been bitten, becoming exactly what he feared most. Siak is forced to fight the infected Kim and is bitten in the struggle. After securing his daughter and Dong's wife in the cabin and teaching them how to use the brakes, he steps onto the back of the engine and lets go, falling away into the tracks. Siak's final act is a total rejection of the advice he gave his daughter at the start of the trip. He realizes that the only way to ensure a future for those you love is to be the one willing to lose everything. The engine eventually grinds to a halt near Busan. Dong's widow and Siak's daughter walk alone into a final pitch-black railway tunnel, unsure of what is waiting on the other side. At the tunnel's exit, snipers have their targets locked. Under orders to shoot anyone who might be infected, the soldiers prepare to fire on the two silhouettes approaching through the darkness. The only thing that stops the bullets is Siak's daughter. She begins singing the song she had practiced for her father. The sound carries through the tunnel, signaling her humanity to the soldiers and saving their lives. Train to Busan suggests that the traditional idea of survival of the fittest fails when the world falls apart. In the end, the only strategy that actually preserved a future was the one built on absolute, selfless sacrifice.